I'm Hartwig Fischer, Director of the British Museum, and I'm delighted to welcome you to tonight's Era of Reclamation talk. I invited Bonnie Greer to curate a project, and together we identified reclamation as a prevalent theme of our era. This is also an opportunity to listen and to learn as we move towards the great transformation of the British Museum.
Most of the time when I was growing up, black was about Atlantic slave trade, humiliation. I remember sitting in the class and a teacher talking about slavery and everything and feeling really small. And the black kids, we were just quiet, on the playground and being taunted, right? So when I did this, worked together with the museum to this thing about African kingdoms, I was so proud because it's saying, right, it's not that people were just hanging around and being put on ships. People that were being taken over to the Americas were engineers, scientists, writers, and that's part of the reason why the slave trade worked. The thing about black history is, it's not just about a series of events, it's about how people actually get treated as well.
It's also about what's missing.
Yes.
Because we are, the three of us are three generations of black people and black history. Well, I realized that as we were talking. And I came here in '86 because I wanted to be closer to what I thought was black. Most of us in America now are children of the Great Migration of the 1930s. And I sound like Michelle Obama, I sound like Oprah Winfrey, I sound like Samuel Jackson, because we had the same antecedents. And so I wanted to really come and get the diversity of blackness. I really wanted to have that, and I kind of felt it got Americanized a little bit. So I want to just really talk about what is Black British history. What is it? And
is it Black British history or is it Black history?
Exactly.
So what is relevant for you in thinking about this and thinking about the task of and the art and the capacity to teach it?
One of the things I say to teachers is, look, the thing about British history is that actually you are talking about black history at the same time. You are. If you talk about the Romans, which children learn at school, I was watching a thing with Mary Beard the other day, and she had a picture of a Roman Emperor, Septimus Severus, who died in York, up the road from here. All right? And then you look at the Doomsday, because I learned about the Doomsday book and William the Conqueror at school, but then you've got a picture of a black man in one of the early pictures there. Then you go to the Tudors, and when I was at school, the Tudors was literally just Henry VIII dancing with one of his wives. And then you find out, no, in that period, there's 20,000 black people in London. I wonder where they went, actually. That's one of the things I would like to know.
I want to ask Lavinya, when we were talking, when we had our first conversation, we were talking, and you were talking about school. And I was teaching in this country then as a teacher, and I was working in schools with mostly black students, and Gaverne was there too. So what happened? We were there. What happened?
Deep breath.
Wow. Well, I wish, first of all, I had both of you as teachers, because that was the problem. I think, firstly, we didn't have black teachers. In my secondary school, there was one in the first school that I went to. And the second one I went to, there were a few black teachers, but in terms of teaching history, I didn't really see that. So in terms of what I was taught as well, there was no kind of correlation between the past and the present, whereas I feel like someone with our experience can easily tailor that, or you can find a way for it to kind of work. I will say, though, that it's not just an individual teacher thing. We have to be able to kind of see this as systemic, and the way that education has been formed, you will have really incredible teachers like yourselves. You will have really, insightful schools. For example, that, you have I think there's, I'm not going to quote it actually, but there is a school that is trying to promote black history more, and the teachers and the senior leadership are behind it. But if we're thinking about on a larger macro scale, the actual school structure, the curriculum, how it's fractured, how you have academies, you have state schools. There is no way for us to really properly assess who's doing it, how it's being done, and what the impact of that is. And so what that means is that it's very hard to penetrate a system where there is so much fracture, and that students might not be able to receive that information at a time in their life where they actually do need it. And so I think that's why I started the Black curriculum, because it's unfair. I had to go all the way to university, pay $9K a year, be put under a lot of stress to be able to reach and learn this history that fundamentally it's history, right? And I don't think it's not anything special. Like, why isn't this just accessible information?
So what can fill the gap? Because we're talking about an emergency situation in many ways, because one of the things that we were all saying is that there's your generation where the situation, it was always urgent. It was urgent for you, it was urgent for me, it was urgent for all of us. But it's urgent now because you guys have some tools we didn't have. You have ways of talking to each other I did not have, you did not have, we did not have. So there is an urgency, in a sense. How do museums, say for instance, should museums, I won't use the word find a way because I hate that expression. It's like, what can they do? How can they do to deal with an emergency which feels to me not even so much an historical emergency as an emotional one on a certain level?
Sure. Well, I really appreciate the fact that we actually had a bit of this conversation earlier, and I said that our generation, I was born in 1997, so...
Oh my God.
Feel old.
Right. Right, exactly. That much more than I did.
That, I think is prioritising and also making the connection between racism as not just a physical experience, but also one that is very emotional. And some have even drawn a spiritual connection between it as well. I ain't there yet, but I think there is definitely a recognition that it's taken a toll on our mental health, on our bodies, and like how we also see this system as connected to capitalism, right? And I think there is this like broader understanding of what racism is, and I think we as people are multidimensional, and often I remember being in, school trips, going to museums, and just like your teacher would be at the back, and be like, okay, go and see, go see the museum. You'd go with your friends, you'd look into the cases, and behind the glass there'll be like a little dolly. And I think it's just really disconnected at the moment, like the reality of what we've been through as a people over the last 500 years, and the fact that it's still ongoing, I think, is also, it's the hugest part of the problem. Often the narrative that we're told is that racism and exploitation and colonialism was a thing of the past. Honey, it's still ongoing. We still have neo-colonialism in countries in Africa. We have classism that is still affecting Black people here in Britain, and I think these kind of narratives are overlooked in favour of Americanization,
That's
right?
That's right.
And American narratives around Black history. And I think we need to take a more localized approach, one of where we can actually see the impacts today, and then also kind of have, I like multi-sensory stuff, so if I can hear things, if I can see things, that's just me. And I think, we're trying to really amplify that through the Black curriculum because we are arts-based. And so I think the arts as a medium to encourage people to make that connection visually to what has happened in the past and is happening in the present just makes things more alive, and it's not just that this static history that once existed and ended. It's still happening, and we have the power to change it.
I think it was Catherine Hall who said it about accuracy and facts. It's not we're trying to have a go at anyone. We're just saying, listen, this actually happened, and why have we not spoken about it? And it actually does have emotional impact on living people now. If we teach more rounded, holistic history, what it does is it shows everybody that you belong here, right? But also explains to people what they belong to as well.
I just want to say, on my personal behalf, I chose the right country to live in, and I'm really grateful to be here, and to be here with all of you all who came here tonight, because there was a lot of truth in this room tonight, and I appreciate it personally. One of the purposes of these conversations is to learn, and to hear, and to do, because I'm at the part of my life when do has got to be important, and we're gonna find a way to do stuff. And can I thank you, Gaverne?
Thank you.
For your service, for everything you're doing now, what you have been doing, what you plan to do. And this queen here, who makes me feel that, I can't even say it. All the stuff I went through made sense. So thank you.